Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to pull out the key insights from all the noise. So we've been digging into these sources on Montreal, looking at what's happening right now, October 2025.
Yeah, and it's pretty fascinating stuff. What we're seeing is, well, more than just news reports. It feels like a kind of blueprint for urban resilience is emerging.
Exactly. So our mission today, for you listening, is to synthesize these different threads. Urban renewal, ecology, culture, social development. It seems Montreal is really using its history, its industrial past.
Like a kind of urban jujitsu, yeah.
Yeah.
Using that weight to tackle modern problems, housing, climate change. It's smart.
Love that urban jiu-jitsu. Okay, so we've boiled it down to three big trends we kept seeing. First, this huge success they're having converting old heritage buildings. Second, urban agriculture isn't just a nice idea anymore. It's becoming a serious economic thing. And third, these really ambitious greening plans popping up everywhere.
Right. And the big picture here, the thing that jumps out, is how Montreal seems to be balancing that preservation, which is like core to its identity, with these really pressing modern needs. Ecology, social issues.
It feels very joined up. Like the heritage isn't just about museums, it's actually part of the solution for, say, social stability.
Exactly. It's not a relic, it's an asset they're actively using.
Okay, let's dive into that first one then, the heritage reconversion boom. This seems like a well-established trend now, right? Taking old factories, old buildings, and giving them new life?
Yeah, it's definitely not new, but the scale and sophistication now are notable. It's smart policy. You avoid demolition waste, keep the city's character, build sustainably. And the examples are pretty powerful.
So let's look at one. In Ahuntsic-Cartierville, the old marble factory on Rue Port Royal Ouest. What's happening there?
Okay, so this one's interesting. They're keeping the original structure, the brick shell, visually very important. But inside, it's becoming this vibrant art center.
An art center.
Okay. But critically, it's how they're doing it. They've created Atelier CAB that's about 20 artist studios. And the key thing, they're offered at, well, the sources say unbeatable prices.
Unbeatable prices.
Yes.
In this climate for artists, that's huge.
It really is. It's a direct pushback against artists getting priced out of cities. It's not just about culture. It's an economic intervention, too.
So how do they make the numbers work? Retrofitting an old factory can't be cheap. Is it subsidized?
It looks like a mixed model. There's also the Center CAB, a big exhibition space, like 8,500 square feet over 4 floors, plus a cafe, a courtyard. Those seem to generate revenue, which helps keep the studio rents low.
Okay. So one part supports the other, a whole ecosystem.
Pretty much. Sustainable culture inside a preserved building.
Right. But you said heritage isn't just culture. So let's swing over to Rosemont-La Petite Patrie, the former convent of the Resurrection on Rue Rosemont. Different focus here.
Totally different focus, yeah. This shows the flexibility of these old buildings. A factory becomes art space. A large convent, solid construction, high ceilings may be perfect for creating social and affordable housing.
Which is obviously desperately needed.
Exactly. It's a direct hit on the housing crisis, using what's already there instead of building new on empty land. Much more sustainable.
And it's not just about, stacking apartments in there, is it? The sources mention community spaces too.
Yeah, that's key. Meeting rooms, workshops. The idea is to make it a real hub, a center of life for the residents and maybe the wider neighborhood. So you link preserving the building with tackling social issues like isolation, head-on.
It feels very intentional. And you mentioned this isn't just isolated projects.
No, it seems quite widespread. The sources list others, the Phi Center, D.H. Cart in Old Montreal, which are major cultural anchors. La Fonderie, Darling, another great art space. Even Espace Saint-Grégoire, which used to be a church. It shows this is systemic, Keep the history, maximize the social good.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if they're shoring up the social side with heritage, it figures they'd also be looking hard at the green side, food security.
Which brings us neatly to cultivating the city. This whole green revolution and the circular economy angle.
And this is where Montreal seems to be really pushing boundaries. La Centrale Agricole.
Ah, yes. Back in Ahuntsic-Cartierville again. This place is, well, the sources call it the world's largest urban agriculture cooperative.
The world's largest. Seriously.
Yep, that's the claim. It's a big building, 1401 Rue Legendre Ouest, housing around 20 different urban farming and agri-food businesses.
Wow. Okay, but what makes it work so well? You mentioned risk before.
That's the core of it, I think. Startups in food, especially farming, have incredibly high failure rates, huge overheads, equipment costs.
Right.
So La Centrale tackles that directly. They share the expensive stuff, a big commercial kitchen everyone can use, an industrial-grade composter, proper cold storage rooms.
Stuff a small startup could never afford on its own.
Exactly. And the impact. The sources quote a 75% survival rate for members back in 2022.
75%.
Yeah.
That's astronomical for startups.
It really is. It flips the usual failure stats right on their head. By sharing costs, they just remove that massive barrier to entry.
And there's this circular economy aspect,
Plus,
too.
over 50 different synergies they've counted. The best example is probably Tricycle, an insect farm. They take waste from other producers there, feed it to their insects, and then the insect waste, the frass, becomes fertilizer for other growers in the building.
Okay, that's properly circular. Waste literally becomes food for food, right there on site.
Pretty much. And it's clearly working because they're growing. The indoor growing space tripled, hit 52,000 square feet in 2022. It shows urban farming can actually be, a proper economic engine.
It's not just a community garden vibe, it's industrial scale.
Right, and that kind of local success story seems to fuel the bigger city plans. We see similar green ambitions across different boroughs.
Like in Mercier-Hochelaga-Maisonneuve, MHM. They're doing something with mini forests.
Yeah, urban mini forests using the Miyawaki method. Have you heard of this?
Vaguely. It's about dense planting, right?
Exactly. You pack in lots of different native species really close together on a small plot. The idea is they grow super fast, like up to 10 times faster than normal planting, creating a dense canopy quickly. Great for biodiversity and crucially for tackling urban heat islands, quick cooling where people live.
That's clever. Targeted greening. And then LaSalle has a big plan, too.
Yeah, LaSalle's green plan for 2025-2030, it's pretty comprehensive. Lots of tree planting, reforestation again, targeting heat islands, modernizing parks, but also some really smart stuff on water management.
Sustainable water management. Meaning what exactly?
Things like rain gardens, more green roofs, using permeable surfaces for paths and parking lots instead of just solid asphalt or concrete.
So the water soaks in rather than just running off into the drains.
Precisely. It slows runoff, reduces the load on the sewage system during big storms, lessens flood risk. It's all about making the city more resilient to, extreme weather.
And that plan ties into transport too, right? Bikes, EVs.
Yeah, it's holistic. Safer bike paths, more EV charging stations. It shows how environment and infrastructure planning are basically the same thing now.
Okay, which raises a big question. How do you do all this? Preserve old buildings, roll out massive greening projects, and deal with the constant pressure for more housing, more density, modern infrastructure. It sounds like a real balancing act.
It absolutely is. And
Yeah.
Point St. Charles is maybe the perfect place to see that balancing act. And it's like a microcosm of the whole city's challenge.
Okay, Point St. Charles. So on the development side,
Big news there was the approval for 800 new mixed-use housing units. It's on an old industrial site right by the Lachine Canal, 1304 Rue St. Patrick. Exactly the kind of dense urban renewal you need.
800 units is significant.
It is. But here's the crucial part, the breakdown. It's mandated. 376 of those units must be social and affordable housing. The rest, 424, are market price.
So they're baking the social housing right into the private development approval, using policy leverage.
Exactly. Revitalize an old industrial strip, get density, and tackle the housing affordability crisis all in one go. It's not an afterthought.
Okay, that's the development side. But you said balancing act.
Yeah.
What about the heritage anchoring in the same area?
Right. At the same time, just nearby, they're expanding the Catherine Crollo Pavilion at Maison Saint-Gabriel. And this place has history with a capital H. We're talking a site acquired by Marguerite Bourgeois way back in 1668.
Wow. Okay, deep roots.
Very deep. And this expansion isn't just, adding a room. It's specifically to house the archives of the Congregation Notre Dame.
The archives. Why is that so important?
Because these archives are an incredible resource. They document centuries of Quebec's history, social history, religious history, and especially the history of women right back to the 17th century. This expansion means better conservation, better access for researchers.
So you've got massive new housing development happening right next door to this project that's about safeguarding centuries of history.
That's the balancing act right there. Development happening alongside, maybe even enabling, the preservation of the city's deep narrative. It's a complex, multi-layered.
That really highlights Montreal's approach. And this local innovation, it sometimes goes global, right? Like BSDAT.
Oh, absolutely. BXI in Montreal, the bike share system, it's not just popular locally, though it hit record ridership numbers recently, which is impressive in itself.
But it got international recognition, too.
Big time. Time magazine actually ranked it as one of the top 25 inventions since the year 2000. That's huge.
Why? What was so special about it?
It was the technology behind it, developed by a Montreal company called PBSC Urban Solutions. Their docking stations, the management software. It basically cracked the code for making large-scale bike sharing practical and reliable. Before them, systems were often a bit clunky, hard to manage.
Okay, so they solved the operational problems.
Right. And because the tech worked so well and could scale up, cities all over the world adopted it. We're talking New York City Bike, London Santander cycles.
No way, those run on Montreal tech.
Yep. Chicago, Barcelona, Dubai, Seoul. The list goes on. It's a massive export success story born from solving a local mobility need.
That's incredible. From local solution to global standard.
It really shows that capacity for innovation, whether it's figuring out heritage conversions or scaling up urban farming in a co-op or designing bike share tech. Montreal seems very good at developing these local models that tackle complex problems effectively.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for you listening. What's the big takeaway here? It feels like Montreal is facing these huge urban challenges. Housing, climate, dealing with its industrial past, but not with one single magic bullet.
No, it's much more nuanced. It's through these very specific, often localized projects that add up to something bigger. Making sure artists can afford studios and old factories, planting tiny, fast-growing forests, solving the tricky economics of urban farming.
It's multi-layered.
That's the word. And if you synthesize all that, the theme that emerges is maybe institutional resilience, building a city that can handle shocks and changes. It's about developing high-density housing right next to preserving deep historical archives. It's launching global tech like BXI while also nurturing the world's biggest urban farm co-op.
It feels like a refusal to make easy choices, like choosing between the past and the future. They're trying to do both.
Exactly. It's about weaving identity and necessity together.
Right. Okay, so final thought for you to chew on. We've seen how local innovations like BXI and maybe La Centrale Agricole now have had this wider impact, even globally. So looking at the newer models we discussed, like that circular economy co-op at La Centrale, or the way they mandated mixed social and market housing in Pointe-Saint Charles, which of those do you think has the most potential to be the next big Montreal export? What global problem could that model help solve elsewhere?
Something to think about. What patterns do you see?
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for diving deep with us today. We'll catch you next time.